Imagine biting into a juicy burger, savoring every bite, only to discover that the meat you are eating is of a human. What if I told you that this horrifying scenario was a reality for some unknowing customers in Baltimore? Welcome to the chilling tale of Joe Metheny, the man who turned his victims into burgers. Joe Metheny's story begins in the mid-1990s in Baltimore, Maryland. He was a 145-pound man, ironically known as Tiny due to his large frame, but Metheny was anything but small in his actions. Metheny, who was a heavy drug addict, claimed that he was introduced to heroin in his posting in Vietnam, and that's how he got a taste for opioids. Metheny said that in July 1994 was when he was finally consumed by darkness. Although he was known before that as a heavy drinking and drug-taking man, but those that knew him ironically as Tiny said he was always friendly and polite. That July was when he got home one day, only to find his wife and son gone. That's when he started his killing spree to fuel his revenge against his wife and the man who pimped her. Very soon, Metheny, who had gotten some information regarding his wife's location, had decided to go check it. There he did not find his wife, but he did see two men named Randall Brewer and Randy Piker, and they soon became Metheny's first victims after he killed them with an axe. That same night, he says he lured a woman down to the same place on the promise of some free drugs in exchange for information about his missing wife, except she did not come with any information, for which Metheny killed her. Again, not long after, he lured another vulnerable drug addict down to that same bridge and killed her too. The bodies were mounting up, and then soon again another person became the victim of Metheny's rage. One day, just as he was trying to dispose of the two women's bodies who he had just killed, he noticed that a man who was fishing had spotted him. Metheny let go of the body, picked up a steel pipe, and raced down towards the man. Metheny explained how things went after that.
That was a very busy night for me. 5 murders within about 7 hours. I washed up in that river and cleaned up the crime scene as much as I could, then left. 2.5 weeks later, I was arrested and charged with the murders of the 2 men I chopped up.
You're probably now wondering how this extremely violent man managed to make people into burgers after being arrested for murder. The answer is, after spending 18 months in Baltimore City Jail, the case was thrown out of court because of a lack of evidence. After being free, what he wanted to do was kill again. If the first murder spree had happened out of some kind of blind rage, now he wanted to do it because he discovered he enjoyed it. He admitted as much later in court.
I got a rush out of it, got a high out of it. Call it what you want. I had no real excuse why other than that I like to do it.
He also later admitted to chopping up the bodies and storing some of the meat in a freezer. That's when he got the idea of starting a roadside stand. He mixed the human meat with pork and beef, making it into hamburger patties. These patties were cooked and sold to unsuspecting customers at a roadside stand. In his chilling confession, Metheny claimed that no one could tell the difference between the human meat and regular meat. He even boasted about how good the burgers tasted. When Metheny ran out of his special meat, he went out once again to the streets looking for prey. His victims were often vulnerable women trapped in the cycle of drug addiction. These were the women who were often overlooked by society, making them easy prey for a predator like Metheny. Metheny's horrific actions were finally halted in December 1996 when a desperate survivor named Kim Kemper escaped his clutches after a momentary lapse of his concentration, managing to find a way out of the nightmarish factory where he locked her up, and very soon after escaping, she reported to the police, which led to his arrest and a confession. In his confession, Metheny claimed that he'd killed more women. He was indicted but not convicted for those confessions due to the lack of evidence, even though chances were he was telling the truth. It's likely in total he murdered 10 women, most of them drug addicts, the homeless, or prostitutes. Metheny was sentenced to death in 1998, aged 43. That sentence was later overturned because of a technicality, and he was given life without chance of parole. During his imprisonment, he'd put pen to paper many times, once offering the stark warning:
Next time you're riding down the road and you happen to see an open pit beef stand that you've never seen before, make sure you think about this story before you take a bite of that sandwich. Sometimes you never know who you may be eating.